Hi everybody, welcome to episode 12 of the Coffee Yarn Dinosaurs podcast. My name is Ruth and today is November 28th, Tuesday the 28th of November. And I am coming to you from Northeast Philadelphia, where I live with my husband, my two sons, my brother-in-law, and on Friday, my daughter. So this is probably going to be a pretty quick podcast. I am sneaking it in while my husband is outside with the kids. So I'm probably going to go a little bit fast today and a little bit different than I usually do it. So I'm just going to put all of the information where you can find me online in the YouTube descriptions box. So I'm not going to waste time saying it all for you guys. But I do want to say welcome to new viewers and welcome back to those of you guys who've been following me. I appreciate your following. I appreciate your interactions. So I'm just going to jump right in. As I just mentioned, baby day is Friday. Yes, I am having a C-section. That's how I know which day baby day is. So I am going to have the Etsy shop closed for at least 2 weeks, probably more like a month. So if you want anything from the Etsy shop, if you want yarn, if you want bags, project bags, get them before the end of the day, November 30th. I'm going to try to have this uploaded today on the 28th. So you guys hopefully will have like a day or two to see this before the Etsy shop gets closed. But baby day is December 1st. So the Etsy shop is definitely going to be closed for at least the first 2 weeks of December, which I know is really not ideal for timing for like Christmas gifts and things like that. But it is what it is. Grab stuff while you can. I'm not sure if I'm going to reopen it all in December or if I'm just going to wait until the new year and do a big restock in the beginning of January. We'll see. Let's see. All right, so I'm just going to jump right in. We're going to start with finished objects, things I've finished since last time. First off is I finished the blanket. I'm so excited. I'm gonna back up a little bit so you guys can hopefully see this. There it is. So this is, for those of you guys who haven't seen this before or haven't seen me working on the blanket squares, this is my own pattern that I worked up. It is a design that I'm planning on publishing, probably just not until the new year, like everything right now. It is just a blanket square that I really like. It's a blanket square that's worked from the center out. This is not, I haven't blocked the blanket yet. And at this point, if I'm having a baby in 3 days, I don't know that it's going to get blocked until after I wash it. This might just be how it's going to be until after she's here, because sometimes that's how life works. But it's a center out blanket square. I'm trying to see what I can see. There we go. It's a center out blanket square. So you just work from, it's cast on in the middle and the little heart motif is worked out. And I did mine 4x4. If you remember from the last episode, I was going to do it 5 squares by 5 squares. And that would have been possible because I did finish this over a week ago. But I had, you know how they talk about pregnant people nesting, like how you get that nesting instinct and you have to clean everything or whatever. I had this crazy like nesting thing, like the baby's gonna come early and I have to get the blanket finished. Oh my gosh, she's not gonna have a blanket. How is my baby gonna be warm if she doesn't have a blanket? Oh my gosh. So I had 16 squares. And 16 squares is enough for 4x4. So I just joined together the ones that I had. Knit on a border. I was up till like 2 in the morning joining together all of these blanket squares. I knit on the border the next morning and was like, oh, okay, I'm good. Okay, I can have a baby now. It's ridiculous. Hormones are crazy. So I want to say right now it's about 30 by 30. Which is not huge. I was hoping for closer to 40 inches by 40 inches, but it is what it is. It's big enough, you can see, I know I keep holding it up like this. It's big enough to wrap a baby in it, which is what I'm going for. So, yeah, I'm really happy with this. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but I am definitely going to release the pattern in the new year. I already have the charts done up, and so I just have to do the actual pattern writing, testing, and tech editing, and all of those shenanigans. So, FO number 1. Ooh, look, I'm only 5 minutes into the podcast. We're doing good. Yeah, the yarn. The yarn is Knit Picks Swish Worsted. And the colorway is Honey. So I don't know if you can see it. It's a little bit washed out right now. My blue wall of death is washing out my colors a little bit. But sometimes, yeah, like right now, you can see it's a little more golden instead of, see how it washes out, like it lightens as it gets closer to the camera? That's less accurate. This back here, next to me, next to the black shirt, that's a little bit more accurate of a color. It's a very nice sunny golden yellow without being too bright, which I like. So, oh, how much did I use of this? Gosh, I think I used 850 yards for the whole blanket. So, funny story. I didn't know how much yarn I was going to need for the blanket because I didn't know how big I was going to make it. And originally I was going to make it, oh yeah, that's the color right there. This is the color. Now you can see it. Originally I was going to make it yellow and gray. So I have like 3 skeins of this left over and then like 8 skeins of gray in the same yarn, which I'll tell you what I'm doing with that when I get to the whip section / plans. But yeah, this was only about 850 yards for a 30 by 30 blanket. And when I block it, it'll probably give me another couple inches. So I'm expecting that it might be more like 34 by 34 once I'm finished, which is not bad. That's a pretty decent sized baby blanket. FO number 2, After Coffee, which is just regular coffee. I mean, it's mostly decaf. It's nothing special. So I did another craft show at my friend's house on Black Friday, and well, I had done one before that. And so, funny story, I had told myself that this season I was not going to make anything I did not want to make. Like, I'm doing baby knits, I'm doing designs, I'm not going to take custom orders, I'm not going to do any of that kind of shenanigans. So I was at a craft show, and a lady picked up a pair of my mitts for Romeo, the fingerless gloves I make. And she was like, oh, these are really pretty. Do you have an ear warmer that matches? And I was like, no, but I was thinking to myself, ear warmers take like half an hour to make. No big deal. I was like, she goes, can you make me a matching ear warmer for these? And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Because I have a problem saying no to people, apparently. And so I was like, yeah, sure, I can make you a matching like ear warmer for those gloves. And she goes, okay, good. Well, I don't like the color of these gloves, so I want a set of them in burgundy. And I was like, gosh darn it. Really? Like, I told myself I was not going to do custom orders. And here it is. I need to do better at saying no to people. I don't do well with that. So, this is my own pattern. I've been making these for years. Whenever somebody says they want an ear warmer, this is what I do. It just has a horseshoe cable on it. And again, same thing. It's not really that crazy. There's variations on this type of pattern everywhere. So I may write up the pattern, I may not. Actually, it's not even about writing it up. The pattern is written up. Do you guys want a horseshoe ear warmer pattern is the real question. Do you want it? Because if you want it, it's written up in full ready to go pattern form. I don't know why I haven't published it, but let me show you. Ta-da! So it's not too huge. It's not too bulky. I usually I'm going to start shouting because I've got this over my ears. I usually do them in 2 strands of worsted weight held together, which comes out more like a super bulky. But this time, the yarn I was trying to match is a light-ish bulky weight yarn. It is, I'll show you, Knit Picks Mighty Stitch. Mighty Stitch? Yes, which is 80% acrylic, 20% superwash wool. Because when I'm making things for people that I don't know if they're going to be able to care for the knitted item properly, this is like a $3 skein of yarn. And I got a headband and a pair of fingerless gloves out of it. Oh, how many yards is it? 136 yards. And I have a large head. I have like a men's size head. So I got a decent sized headband and a pair of fingerless gloves out of it, which I will proceed to show you now because I'm sitting here talking about fingerless gloves, fingerless gloves. My kids are like bonking on the glass door. So, ta-da, oops, got something on those and they're supposed to go to somebody. Whoops. They will be cleaned before they're given to her. But this is my Mitts for Romeo pattern. It's free on Ravelry. And I think I have it loaded up onto Craftsy and stuff too. So this is same thing. Knit Picks Mighty Stitch Bulky. And I got the pair of these and the headband out of one $4 skein of yarn. Awesome. So, these, yeah, I like them. They're just basic, you know, basic little glovies to put on, little fingerless gloves. So now, of course, I cannot contact the woman to get these from me, and I'm having a baby in 3 days, so I'm like, great. I don't want to say wasted my time, because that was my choice to not tell her no. But I just spent this time on making this, and now I can't even get this lady to pick them up. But, whatever. Moving on. It's still a cute set. I think it's going to be great. She wanted them as a gift for her daughter, so I think her daughter's going to like them. But, you know, learn to say no if you have that problem. Some people don't have that problem. I do. So that is FO number 2. FO number 3. So I've talked before, I talked last podcast about the indie design gift along that's going on. And if you don't know, a quick summary is that there's 311, I think this year, 311 designers. And basically, if you knit any of our patterns, any paid pattern, any pattern that is not for free, if you knit any of our paid patterns starting November 21st all the way through the end December 31st, and you enter them in the Ravelry thread, the knit along thread, you have a chance to win prizes. Like, there's over 300 designers. I'm sure you're probably working on something by one of these designers already. So really it's worth it to just head over to Ravelry and be like, look, I started this and I'm gonna pop it in the FO thread, and you could win yarn, you could win books, you could win stitch markers. There's tons of patterns you can win. It's great. It's totally worth it. I love the gift along, and I make it a point in the gift along to knit other people's patterns. I am a participating designer and a moderator for the event, just in the interest of full disclosure. But the whole point of the gift along from a designer perspective is that we're promoting each other. So while I could sit there and knit my own patterns the whole time and have them count, that's not really the point. You know, if you're being selfish and you're not promoting other people aren't going to promote you, which is sort of circular selfishness, but that's not the point of view I'm coming at it from. I'm coming at it from the point of view that there are some really awesome designers out there, and I would like to promote some of them. I would like to knit their patterns and enjoy working on someone else's designs, because that's kind of a Christmas gift to me, to be able to just buy a pattern, work on it, and not be doing the math, and not be doing the thinking about getting everything perfect for publication. That's a gift for me. And I end up making Christmas gifts. So it totally works out. You guys should check it out. But I have lots of projects from there. So let me show you my first indie design gift along project. Tan 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 tan! Look how cute these freaking pants are. They're adorable. This is the Fire and Ice pattern by Gabrielle Dansknit. And I'm sure you've noticed the yellow is the same yellow as the baby blanket I just showed you. Because like I said, I had leftovers and I had planned to do it with this gray too. So I was like, you know what? I planned on it to be baby stuff. I'm just gonna knit up a whole bunch of baby stuff because baby stuff works up really quickly. And I thought these were cute. They're just little baby long pants. So this is the 3-month size, and they do have a longer cuff. I just had it rolled up. You know, I just had it rolled up. But this is a great pattern. Like seriously, it's amazing. It looks super simple, but you can tell that the designer has really thought the pattern out very well because there's little details like I did a chain stitch because I'm too lazy to do an I-cord. It's supposed to be an I-cord drawstring on the pants, but you can do it like this with the drawstring. She has a version where you can do it folded over, so there's no drawstring and it would just be like, it would be taller, of course. It would be a long folded over pant. She has a version for if you're doing cloth diapers, you need more space in the booty because cloth diapers take up more space. So she has a version for making it fit better if you're doing cloth diapers. And it's sized, I want to say it's sized maybe like newborn to 2 years. There's a ton of, I'm probably going to make a pair of these for my little guy that's almost 2 because they're fantastic and I loved knitting them. And also free information because it's cool like that. And if you're, anyway, so a lot of these pants patterns, you knit the pants and you know, you put the crotch stitches on hold and you come back to them later and you end up with these wonky holes that you have to sort of like finagle, like if you don't do a thumb gusset correctly and you have to kind of like darn it a little bit when you're closing your seams. This pattern, you graft the crotch before you pick up the leg stitches. So you have no holes because this designer is very smart and I like the way that she thinks. And it makes me really happy to see people thinking about even simple stuff like that. Like, how can I make this pattern easier for the people who are going to knit it? Oh, I know. Let's graft the crotch first so you don't have any weird holes that you have to sew up and make look funky. So, yeah, super pleased. These only took me like a day or 2 to make. This is the 3-month size because I went for an ultrasound a week and a half ago and they told me she was already 8.5 pounds a week and a half ago. So I don't really think much of my newborn size things are going to fit the probably 9-pound baby that I'm going to have in a couple days. So I made the 3-month size, and if they're a little big, that's totally fine. She's being born December 1st. We're gonna have the rest of the winter. She'll grow into 3-month size stuff. I'm not worried about it. So those are those. My next gift along project, I made the Permutation hat by Hunter Hammerson. And it is a worsted weight. I'm telling you all this because before I show you it for a reason. It's a worsted weight pattern that you're supposed to knit worsted weight on US size 5s, which is an intentionally tight gauge for a reason, and the pattern states that you want it to be at a tight gauge. But the smallest size is an 18-inch head circumference, which is kind of like a child size, like a toddler to child size. It would probably fit my 2-year-old, but because I'm trying to make a 3-month-ish size, I was like, okay, I have some DK weight yarn, so I'm going to use the same size needles. I'm going to use 5s, but I'm going to use DK weight yarn instead. And I should have just used the stitch count that was in the pattern instead of being like, I need to modify the pattern some more. But of course, Ruth cannot leave well enough alone. So I went down to a DK weight yarn, and I cast on 2 repeats fewer than the smallest size of the pattern. And the result is so tiny. Guys, it's beautiful, and it's like the tiniest hat I've ever made in my life. I measured it. This is a preemie sized hat. This is a 10-inch circumference. For those of you who don't know, a standard baby size hat is like 12 to 14 inches that you make it. And this one is barely 10. So it's beautiful. I am going to find an appropriate, excuse me, got hair. Oh. I'm going to find an appropriate charity to donate it to, because some little baby will need a warm hat, but this is not going to fit any full-term child. It's just not going to happen. So after my little tiny hat fiasco, I decided to use the same yarn and just cast on the smallest size of the pattern, which gave me, for size comparison, this. So this is a normal newborn sized hat. There's the preemie one. Da 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 da. So here it is. Permutation by Hunter Hammerson. I have had my eye on this since last gift along, and I cast it on last gift along, and just a word of warning, the only colors that I had were black for the background and bright neon green for the sort of flower motifs. It looked like I was knitting a marijuana hat, which is not what I was trying to do. So, guess a word of warning either way. If you're trying to knit a marijuana hat, this pattern will be great if you use black and green. Otherwise, I would strongly advise you to stay away from it, because that's what it ends up looking like. I had posted it in the gift along thread last year and was like, hey guys, do you see what I see? And everyone was like, yes, we see it. You should probably choose different colors. So I saved it for this year. Here it is. The yarn is Knit Pick Swish DK. In the dark is Amethyst Heather, and the light is Sugar Plum. I don't know if you can really see the colors accurately, but this is, yeah, that purple's pretty accurate. This is blowing out a little bit. It's a little bit more pink than is showing up in the video. But there you go. Hunter has a ton of fantastic projects. You've probably heard the name Hunter Hammerson before. Lots of cool hats. Oh, the really neat thing about this pattern is that there's multiple charts for where you place the little flower spike stitch thingers. There's multiple charts for that. There's advice for, you can make it a rolled collar, not a rolled collar, like a flip up collar, which I didn't feel was necessary for a baby hat. But if I made an adult hat, I would totally do it. There's different brim suggestions. I did a regular 1x1 rib because that's what I prefer for my hat brims. It was supposed to be a twisted rib, either 1x1 or 3x1. I just did this because it was easier and I like how it looks. And also the decreases are supposed to be in the contrasting color, and I opted not to do that because I did not feel like doing stranded knitting while I was decreasing this hat. So that is that. So that is FOs, and I'm going to move on to whips. So my first one is not a gift along pattern, but it's still awesome. It is the, oh gosh, everything's all tangled up. Let's see if I can untangle things. Maybe hold it from this direction. There we go. This is the Raindrops Pullover by Tin Can Knits. So you can see I've got the whole body done. It's got this rolled edging, which I don't usually prefer, but I figured it's a baby sweater and I'll try it, and I haven't tried it in a long time, and I'm finding that I actually don't mind it too much. I don't typically prefer the rolled edge, but it's not bad. The yarn is Bad Wolf Girl Studios in her Galaxy LMC colorway, and I think you can see, yeah, you can see the sparkle in there. It's very pretty. This is a pretty accurate color. So it's knit top down, and it's a circular yoke. There we go. And you can see just the little yarn overs and the little bit of lace, kind of eyelets. I don't really call it lace. It's more an eyelet pattern. But yeah. So this is the 0 to 6 month size. And I looked at a bunch of project pages, and a lot of I love looking at project pages on Ravelry because there's so much good information in there from people who have already made the pattern. But a lot of people said this runs closer to the 6 month size than to the newborn to 3 month size. And there were a couple of really cute pictures of newborn babies with, it was like a dress. Like, no way was it a sweater. It was definitely a 6 month size. So this is supposed to be knit on size 3s. And I went down to a 2.5, which is not so much of a dip in needle size, but this is also like my little deformed cake of yarn. There it is in the cake if you want to see it. This is a light fingering weight yarn. There's 463 yards in the 100 gram skein. So it is a lighter weight fingering yarn than is called for in the pattern. So I figured going down in half a needle size, using a lighter weight yarn, I will probably get closer to a 0 to 3 month size than a 6 month size. I have yet to measure. I will let you know. I'll let you know when I measure this, when it's finished. But yeah, this, like most or all Tin Can Knits patterns, is from newborn baby size all the way up to adult, like 2X or something. So lots of sizing options, lots of choices. The only thing I would say about this is I love this yarn. It's super, super pretty. I really, really love it, but it kind of obscures the pattern, which is the risk you run when you use a variegated yarn. And I knew that, but I also found that the sparkle kind of makes the pattern obstruction even worse. So I think it's just because the sparkle distracts from the pattern, but you really have to be looking at it to see the pattern. Otherwise your eye just focuses on the colors and on the sparkles. I don't know that I would change it. I don't know that I would go back and use a different yarn, but just if you're thinking of using this, be aware. Be aware that for this pattern, you will probably not be able to see the pattern as well in a variegated or sparkled yarn, just because it's a very subtle pattern. It's not too big or bold. Next pattern, next project. Still on the needles. Look at this. He's a little baby sweater. This is the Hyphen Sweater by Lisa Shemry, and she is Frogginette on Ravelry, on Instagram. She's Frogginette, and I love this sweater. Oh my goodness. There is an adult size. I want to make it for myself because holy cow, you guys, I literally started, I'll grant you it's a 3-month-old size sweater. I will give you that. I literally started this last night, okay? I have about 1/2 inch to go on the body before a little more garter stitch on the border, and then the sleeves, and then I'm done. And I love it. This again is the Knit Pick Swish worsted that I was going to use for the blanket and I didn't. So I'm making a sweater. And P.S. sweater in pants together. Look how cute that is. I know it's like a baby sweatsuit. Don't be all crazy with me. I know it's like a baby sweatsuit, but how cute is that? I really like it. I really like it. I might make a yellow one too, depending on the yardage, because the yardage for the 3-month size is 275 yards, and I only have about 230 left in the yellow, so we'll see. Each of these, upside down, each of these Knit Pick Swish is 110 yards, and I'm almost done the body, and I'd say I still probably have about 30 grams left of the second skein. So I might be able to make the full sweater with just 2 skeins of yarn. And if that's possible, I'm definitely going to immediately cast on a yellow one also, because I have the yarn and it's adorable and it's so much fun to knit. Seriously, you guys, it's amazing. I was watching the Wool Needles Hands podcast, which is Taylor, and she was talking about, like, where's your sweet spot for knitting, right? What's that gauge where the yarn just flies off the needles, your project is just done, you pick it up, it's perfect gauge for knitting. This is mine. US 8s, worsted weight yarn, amazing. It flies, it is so fast. And look, I can't stand it. Look at the detail on this. It's so pretty. And without giving the pattern away, this is a really easy, it's a really easy pattern for the yoke. It's so simple. It's totally doable. There is an option to put buttons all the way down the front, but I do not have enough buttons right now. So I'm only going to do 3. So there's going to be, I'm going to do these little wooden buttons. They're just from Joann's. There's going to be 1, 2, and a 3rd one down here, which I think is adorable. So, the hyphen sweater by Lisa Shemry. The adult version is called M-dash, E-M hyphen dash, and it's gorgeous. I'm 100% going to make one for myself in my spare time. And one more whip, which is a gift along whip, which is in PS. This is my Aubrey Ann Sewing Co. envelope. What do you call it? Wristlet clutch envelope doohicker? That. Check this out. Has a zipper. And I am using it right now as a combination between a clutch and a project bag, because it is just the right size to have. Here, I'll just show you. Random Ziploc bag. Ignore that. I have right now my sock whip in it, and I have in the pocket cash, cards, chapstick. So it's very, like, sure, you're just bringing a little bit of stuff in with you, but it's great because now I have my sock with me everywhere I go. So I can just sneak in a couple rows whenever I want to, and problem solved, traveling sock project, excuse me. Awesome. So this is also a gift along project. This is, the pattern is called Run You Clever Boy, which is a Doctor Who reference. Bonus points if you get it. It is called Run You Clever Boy, and the pattern is by Artesanitarium. She doesn't give her name, just Artesanitarium. And this is knit in Knit Picks Felici in the Mint Chip colorway. And actually, I'm really pleased. It's showing up very nicely on the camera. You can see that this stripe is green, and then you've got like a light blue, a turquoise. This is actually a very light gray, dark brown, light brown. So I modified this a little bit because I needed a travel project to start quickly, and I was going over to my parents' house for Thanksgiving, and I could not find my size 1 needles, which is what I usually use for the cuff when you're going top down. So I opted to just work it toe up. The pattern calls for a sport weight sock yarn. So I was like, well, I'm making these for my brother for Christmas. He doesn't watch. I'm not concerned that he's going to see this. I'm making these for my brother for Christmas. And so I know my standard man sock size is 72 stitches. And by nature of this traveling cable pattern, you can totally work it with more or less stitches than the pattern calls for. So I just cast on, I think I cast on 12. Yeah, I cast on 12, increased, or 12 on 24. I cast on 24 because I magic loop. It's hard for me to tell you stitch counts sometimes. I'm gonna start over. I cast on 24 stitches. I increased to 72 stitches. Dropping stuff because I'm trying to rush. And then I just started working the cable pattern, which I love. And I love that little like jog that you get from the cables, that little offset, that little jog from the cables where the stripes change. So I am almost to the heel. I am planning on putting in a short row heel just for the sake of convenience. And what else do I have to say? Oh, so the pattern, when you start it top down, the pattern is supposed to go from like the side of the leg around to the front. But because of the way the cable is working out, I don't know if it's going to be at a spot where I can wrap the cable around the leg after the heel. Like it's supposed to be just on the foot and then wrap around the leg. So basically, if this cable stops here and that's the appropriate place for me to place a heel, after I'm done with the heel, I will just wrap the cable around the leg like the pattern wants you to. But if I have to start zagging back that way, I will just keep doing the zigzag all the way up the front of the sock, and that will be that. So yeah, I'm very pleased with these. It's super fun. Once you start the cable pattern, you don't need to look at the pattern at all. It's very intuitive, but it's fun. This pattern I will definitely make again because it's enough interest to keep me wanting to make the next row. Like, oh, just another row, just a couple more rows, because this zigzag keeps going because you're moving the stitches over. So it's like, oh, just a couple more rows. I'm just going to get the zigzag to move a little bit. And you've got the striping in there too. So it's striping and it's zigzag and it's so much fun. So if you don't like plain vanilla socks, but you want something easy to take with you that you're not going to have to think about the pattern, Run You Clever Boy by Artesanitarium in a stripy sock yarn. And I'm using my Chowgu red lace, and they are a size US 2, which is a 2.75 millimeter needle, which is my standard sock size needle. So they're living in, like I said, my Aubrey Ann Sewing Co bag, and like I have a doctor's appointment later today, normal baby doctor appointment, nothing crazy, and I will just, because this already has my license and my cards and everything in it, I will just be able to grab my clutch, go, and it looks like you're carrying a purse, and I have a sock inside it. So yes, those are all of my whips. I do want to say for the gift along though, I'm going to insert a couple photos here. I wanted to highlight a couple of patterns that I found, really awesome patterns, and I don't have time to make them because, as previously mentioned, baby in 3 days. So I'm going to put up a couple photos while I name the names here because I want you guys to see these awesome, amazing patterns that I just found, even though I probably can't knit them or can only knit some. So the first one is called Zahar by Elitsa Cherneva. And oh my gosh, you guys, it's crocheted, okay? You look at the picture and you think it's like this fancy lace knitting shawl, and it's a crocheted shawl. It looks so floaty and fancy. And I'm putting a picture in, picture now. And it's not my color. that pink is not my color, but I would love to do it in sort of a neutral, maybe beige, or maybe do it in like a bright green or something like that, either neutral or bright, depending what I'm feeling on at the time. The second one is the Hot Air Balloons Mobile by Doreen Blask. And holy cow, what a great way to use up all of those little sock yarn leftovers if you don't want to make a sock yarn blanket. Hot air balloon mobile. Holy cow, it's so cute. This one I probably am going to make at some point in the near future, just because it looks like it would be really easy to make. You use sock yarn scraps, and then you have a cute little mobile for a baby, or toys for the boys to play with, or whatever. Number 3 is the Elephant Cowl by Janice Hope. And wow, if I had the time to knit 2,000 yards of fingering weight yarn. But this is another one that's going on my someday list because I think it would look great in a gradient yarn behind a like a solid main color. So either like a white or a black for a main color, and then a gradient contrasting color for the elephants and the designs going up. I think it would be gorgeous. And then the last one is Daffidini by Anna Dalvey. And I couldn't believe this pattern has no projects on Ravelry. So if you like it, seriously go check it out. There are no projects for it on Ravelry, and I couldn't believe it because it's so darn pretty, and it uses 2 skeins of sock yarn. Done. 800 yards. Huge shawl because of the lace and the gauge that you knitted at. What? Totally amazing. So check those out. Check out the gift along. Plans for the future / plans for the next 3 days before I have this child, as long as she doesn't decide to come early. I am planning on dyeing yarn today. I have yarn soaking. I'm planning on dyeing for today. It is not going to be up in the shop before I have the baby, so you're gonna have to wait a couple weeks, but there is new yarn coming. It should be dyed today, so I'll be able to just pop it in the shop in a couple weeks. I want to finish the 2 baby sweaters, the Raindrops Pullover and the Hyphen sweater. And I showed you guys last time the sock I was making for my mom, the World's End sock. And I decided I'm going to pull out the, not afterthought. I'm going to pull out the heel flap because the pattern calls for a heel flap and gusset. And it's a really cool looking gusset, the way she does it. The gusset decreases on the bottom of the foot, but the yarn is so dark brown that I can't see what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna take out the heel flap. I'm gonna do a short row heel and hopefully get those back on the move too. Last 2 things. This is sort of acquisition, sort of not. I'm sure you guys have seen on Instagram the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted thing. And I was like, I'm not going to play along this year. I'm not going to play along. But guys, I really like sending stuff out to you guys. It just makes me happy. I like sending out presents. I don't mind getting yarn and stuff in return, but I really like sending things out and making people smile, making people happy. So I granted 3 yarn wishes. And of course, I got 3 granted back for me. So the first one, I'm going to show you. 2 of them have arrived and 1 of them I'm still waiting on. The first one is Carly White, who is Aubrey Ann Sewing Co, who, this bag, right, that I get a lot of my project bags from. She and I essentially did a swap. We kind of agreed that we use Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted as a way to clear out stash that we don't want. Not because it's bad yarn, but just because, you know how sometimes you buy things and then you look at it later and you're like, why? Why did I buy this? What do I want to use it for? I have no idea. I don't want to have this anymore. It's just sitting. So she and I did a swap. And so the first skein she sent me, ooh, wow, the colors are showing up great today. Guys, I'm gonna have to podcast in the morning. This is Dye for Knitting. The back, here's the information. It does not say a colorway, it does not say yardage, but it feels like a pretty standard fingering weight yarn. So here, I'm gonna open it. Well, sort of open it because the card is tied onto it. Let me untie the card because this is worth seeing. It's a very pretty color. Actually, not to sound mean, pretty might not be the word for it. It's a very striking color. It reminds me of like a rainforest because you've got the blue and the yellow into orangey red. It's just very pretty, kind of rainbow, but it reminds me of a rainforest. I don't know why, I couldn't tell you. It reminds me of a rainforest. Look at those colors together, you guys. It's so cool. Look at that, look at those colors. Da, da, da. I love how they twist up like that too. So this is probably going to be a pair of Cobble Socks. If you guys have seen my Cobble Socks pattern, it's made pretty much specifically for yarns like this, and I think it's just gonna look amazing. I'm planning on, I'd probably make them for myself. I might make a tiny baby pair because yes, I do feel that my tiny daughter needs crazy socks, and I can make them for her. So probably a pair of matching socks for me and my daughter. The second yarn is Main Yarn Fiber and Supply Co. And this is 430 yards. It's 60% superwash merino, 30% bamboo, hey, and 10% nylon. So I asked Carly about this. I said, I've never heard, and she said, oh, that's because they're only a local yarn to me. She lives in Maine. She goes, yeah, they sell at the main yarn store. And they don't sell online. They're only local. And I was like, ha ha ha, this is so exciting. I get to try something that I would not otherwise get to try because she was nice enough to send it to me. So check this out. It's just a nice berry colorway. I guess I'm supposed to say mauve or mauve or whatever because it's so popular right now, but berry, mauve, whatever you want to call it. It's a cool looking color. So I'm excited to try this out. I don't think I've ever knit with a yarn that has bamboo in it, especially a sock yarn, so I'm very curious to see what the texture, like how the texture works out, all of that. And then number 3, I don't have the tag on it, but this is from the Arkansas Yarn Co. And she's an indie dyer, and she dyed this skein of yarn just for me. I was like, you're so cool, that's so nice. I had put up on the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted thing and just said, hey, I wanna connect with other indie dyers. If you're an indie dyer, you know, wanna send me a skein of yarn? She was like, yeah, I would love to send you a skein of yarn. I'm gonna dye you your own color. It's gonna be awesome. And it really is. It's like, I'll see if I can get you to see all of these colors. There's purple and blue and green, and yet she put like all the colors in there. And it is a sparkle yarn. And you can see there's some, like underneath, because this happens with sparkle yarns, there's like a blank spot there. And then over here, there's a ton of speckles. And there's some parts that have like lighter speckling, or you can see the colors a little bit better. So I think this is going to be really cool, probably for either a pair of socks that doesn't really have a pattern on it, because these speckles would definitely obscure a pattern, but I think it would be really cool for a pair of either like vanilla socks or just ribbed socks or something like that, or it would be really cool in a shawl. Like my yarn doodle shawl, the asymmetrical, I'll put a picture in up here of it, but I think this would be really cool in a yarn doodle shawl just because the speckles and the cool coolness of the sock yarn would come out without being too, like, you don't really have to see the pattern in that shawl. It's sort of more about the colors and just playing around than it is about the actual texture. So I think this would work out really well. So that is all I have for today. And I was gonna do a short podcast and I'm at almost an hour already. So apparently I'm incapable of doing short podcasts, but there you have it. What you can expect in the future for podcasting is I think I'm going to do more of a vlog style updates as I'm able to for the month of December, just because with a new baby, I don't want to leave you guys completely hanging for a month, but I also am 100% positive I will not be able to do an hour-long podcast with a newborn baby. It's just not going to happen. So you guys can expect to see vlogs from me, short little, maybe 5-minute vlogs whenever I'm able to either show you what I'm working on or just say, hello, I'm alive, here I am. And I'm going to try to publish a couple of maybe free patterns or start working on a couple of other patterns. So we'll see. It's a little up in the air. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in my December vlogs post-baby. Bye.